This is the Power of OZmosis podcast, powered by the Vidwheel Creator Network. Hi everyone, I am John Osberg with the Power of OZmosis Consulting. This is the Power of OZmosis video podcast, powered by Vidwheel Creator Network. I am joined today by a very good friend, a supporter, a client, a community champion, a fellow entrepreneur, someone who's very passionate about what he does, both in the office and out of it. And I'm joined, and also we're in studio again, as you will see. And this time, actually, the credit is due to exactly the person square in front of you. And so that's Mike Davern of Insept. And again, excited to be here to talk all things community, to talk passion, to talk service, and entrepreneurship, amidst other things. So, MD, as I like to call you, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, John.
It's great to have you here. And again, my thanks, as I've already said 13,000 times, for being able to put this together, coming in and be able to set up pretty seamlessly and having this great look and feel. I got a lot of good remarks, positive remarks last week. So thanks again.
Great.
But it's good to have you. And on that topic, let's jump right into it. Let's talk, why don't you tell the audience, who you are, what your business does, and some of the other things that kind of are in between business and personal.
All right. My name is Mike Davern, as John had already indicated. I am a partner and CEO of Insept. We are a Buffalo-based digital solutions company, we like to call ourselves. We certainly are heavy in advertising and marketing, but there's a lot more in the digital ecosystem that both small and medium-sized businesses as well as large companies need. Not all of them are tied right into marketing and advertising, but a lot of it even kind of with what brought us together with a couple of hints and tips that I had for you, getting everything right so that the world can find you, and getting everything right so that Google can find you the way that they do it, which sometimes line up and sometimes don't. Those are a lot of the things that we do. And we work with clients from literally single location or few location family businesses, like think of the Barafatos here in Buffalo, been clients for 6 years
Pizza?
now. Prima Pizza, Barafatos Catering, but also everyone's favorite Old Man River and Mississippi Muds.
Yes, that's
so anyone who gets those loyalty texts from Old Man River and Mississippi Muds, that's powered by Insept.
Aren't they on the same street too? Not to interrupt
right,
you already.
Right down the street from one another, yeah.
And that's all Barafatos.
And all the way to clients like Coca-Cola. So we really cover the gamut.
And did you say not-for-profit in there as well?
And nonprofits has been something that's been a big piece of what I've always been involved in, and actually what one of my business partners have. And we had a few clients in the space, and actually as a kind of we can say there's a silver lining with COVID. We ended up evolving into some of that space with more nonprofit clients, both in town and out of town as well. And we really enjoy that work.
Kudos, brother. Yeah, and it's funny. Chuck Collar was our last feature in here, who you had a chance to connect with, and then post shoot you did as well. Chatted a bit more, and he's obviously represents a not-for-profit world very well. So it's cool to have him in here, and then now you're next up, and rightfully so. So I think what I want to pull out of that high level, and thank you, that's helpful, because I'd heard your name around town, around the area, and it was really cool with how we connected. And it's only been a couple months that we've known each other, and I know one of the things that I've said in other podcasts was this is exploratory. This is we're on a journey together, unpacking things that whether we knew about or didn't, so that the audience then feels like they're right there with us, which is great. So I think it'd be helpful, again, with the flavors of community and service, especially in the realms of not-for-profit. Why don't you unpack, if you're willing to, how we connected, and honestly too, even where you messaged me, I think would be important to talk about too.
Well, I think I had been following you on LinkedIn. You actually used to work for a company we've done some work for when I was talking about cleaning up the stuff so that Google and people can find you the way that it needs to be set up. We actually did that for one of your former employers.
That's funny.
And it was just interesting that, I was looking at your history and seeing what you were doing. I was like, I don't know where the fit exactly might be, but I think I need to talk to this guy, John Osberg. So I reached out, and, even though we work in digital, you are absolutely, if we're running at 100 miles an hour, you're running at 1,000 miles an hour when it comes to your especially LinkedIn and other social media presence, and doing a good job. And we were like, you know what? I know the things I need to do, and for lack of a better term, sometimes I just need someone to kick me in the butt to be the champion to say, let's get this going, and let's get this over the goal line, because oftentimes we're so caught up in our day-to-day, we get in our own way. And that was one of the things I approached you about, was helping us stay out of our own way with some of those things. It's easy to do it for clients, but man, to do it for yourself is a whole different ballgame.
Well, that's perfect. And I just want to thank you, first of all, for the kind words. I really am grateful, especially from someone like yourself in the community, as embedded as you are, doing the great works that you're doing. But it's interesting, just this morning, well, you said champion, but then even like coaching, it's interesting. As I was even driving to the location today, I was thinking about that, how like, you know, when a coach coaches, they're not only coaching the person, the subject, the team, whoever, but they're coaching themselves indirectly. And so being aware of that exact thing, which is great for what Insept does, to be able to, and you've done it for me, which we'll get to, but it's just fascinating how you know, how that all works, how they interact, and how important it really is. You know, again, first of all, you're giving me kudos and props for the work that I do, the content I put out, which again, thank you. But honestly, I still have so much to learn. And by just us connecting and you reaching out, I mean, today, this morning, I kid you not, right? I'm not even saying this just for the podcast. I'm doing a dog walk in the morning, and I'm thinking about how it was like a light bulb moment, Mike. I realized why my LinkedIn summary and my LinkedIn in general is so robust, to a point where I think there's issue with it, because it is over the top. There is a lot of words there. There are a lot of words there. And I know why, because I don't have a website. This is real time. Like, I don't have a website. I don't have now I have a Google, Google My Business page. And so when people go in, they see OZmosis Consulting, and I've been populating that slowly but surely, as we've talked about even prior to this. But I'm fascinated by that, and by the fact that a guy like myself, who is the content guy or whatever, still is amiss on this having a website, having the right SEO and other platform, other services you're doing. So maybe more remarks on that. I'm curious.
Well, it was one of our initial conversations, right? It was like, you know, you're going to be frank with some things you might tell us, and I'm going to be like, dude, where's your website?
I remember you said that, like, on our second interaction. I was like, yeah, I had the domains. Yeah. That doesn't do anything.
But that's where you can get a little too heavy, maybe in your social media content, because really your website, depending on what your goal is, and it's going to be different depending on what kind of company that you're running and what your end goal is going to be. But, you know, for you, the hero for you and your website should be expanded content, right? You sort of tease me here, and I'm going to click in and look for more. And then you start getting into not only getting the right people to visit your website, because everything in marketing, especially when it's digital, you know, used to be just kind of spray it and hope that people see it.
Shotgun, not rifle.
And so for this, it's much more of a rifle approach. It's highly targeted, and you want to make sure that you are not just working in a quantity world, you're working in a quality world. Mm-hmm. And I would much rather have less visitors to my website and see that if my goal is to provide expanded information, for instance, to get using things like Google Analytics, which we can't use for you because you don't have a website yet, to look and see what's going on with how people are interacting with the pages and the content on your site. So for you, it's likely, sure, you want a lot of visitors, but you'd rather have actually fewer visitors who are spending more time on your site. They're actually looking at the information that you put on there. And then also you're going to measure and look at what else you're putting out there. So if you have this particular piece of content cycle you're running on LinkedIn, well, I hope if we're using your website properly, you're going to see that more attention on your website's focused on an expanded view of what you're teasing out there on LinkedIn. So it's a great tool, but then also there's the human aspect and the interaction with clients and prospective clients, but you're also following Google's rules as well. So you get more love from Google the more that this stuff naturally happens as well. They really do want to match up with how we are interacting and how we're looking on a web query and with what's natural and interactive. So if you're taking care of that content and then bringing that hero back to your website, you're getting more love from Google. You're getting that SEO piece we talk about. Some people never find out what that formula is. Some people don't need to spend tons of time managing it. Sorry, SEO companies out there, because we do the same thing.
Right.
Not everyone needs thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a month in budget on SEO management. God. Sometimes it's content, and content's king. So you do that, you do the right thing. And suddenly you're following all the rules and Google's loving your website. You're never going to rank in a top 100 site or something. Let the big companies take care of that. You want to rank in the top with what you're doing.
I was to say, know your
category
space.
In the space, absolutely. Know your lanes, and there
Know
might be
your
more than
lanes.
one, right? And sometimes you're going to switch lanes, and that's why Google Analytics will come into play, or some of the other analytic tools that are out there to let you see how your website's performing and where people are going. Is if you switch lanes, you hope that the traffic on your website and what people are looking at are going to follow that as well, and then you know you've got a good plan working.
What's fascinating here, MD, Mike, sorry with nicknames, but what's fascinating here is there's an interesting relationship here, and it's bilateral. You've hired me as a coach, but yeah, you're coaching me as I coach some of your people.
Well, we're always learning, though.
Well, that's it.
It doesn't stop.
And that's the fact. But in all of my 7 months of being in OZmosis, I shouldn't say this, but there are several of my clients, not to make it about me, that are coaching me too, whether it's direct or indirect. You've taken, though, a more intentional, one of my favorite words, an intentional but also objective way of delivering those insights and those little nuggets of wisdom. And just here alone, Mike, the SME, the subject matter expertise that you're pouring on our audience, listeners, millions of watchers and listeners, law of attraction, is invaluable. So while we're here a couple, whatever minutes in, maybe some quick takeaways for our listeners that maybe they are solopreneurs, maybe they run a small size business or whatever, SMB, or even further up the chain in terms of size, whatever, maybe let's call it 3 things arbitrary, but 3 things that people can do that don't take a lot of effort, but they will help them, it will boost them up a little.
Well, beyond having a website, right, which is, it doesn't have to be a huge effort. There's places where you can build free websites, cheap websites. Often you get what you pay for. Sometimes the free environments are more limiting. Google might not be looking at those as readily as they might in some other sources. So you might not get that ranking and that love that I was talking about as quickly or as widespread as you might from another effort. But have something. Start somewhere, and there's places to do that. And the Google My Business listing, for instance, that we talked about with you, is like, hey, did you know that even though you have your office at your house, you can set up your Google My Business listing, connect it to your home address, hide that home address, and have a service area business. And where do you concentrate? Well, you're starting in this region, right? So it's easy that you're a service area business in Buffalo. Anyone who is a solopreneur doing something, even if they're home-based, you should have a Google My Business listing and just make that service area piece. I wouldn't recommend publishing your home address on your Google My Business listing.
We worked through that. Yeah,
all the things that could possibly go wrong, right?
Yeah, a couple.
It's easy enough to find out where we live, right?
Sure.
Don't give people another place.
100%.
And that's a big box to check, especially when you're servicing a local market. If you're going national, it might not be the place to start, but there's the vast majority of who might be watching this and the vast majority of us who are starting something. Even if our goal is world domination, we have to start somewhere, right? Yeah. So this is a really important piece. Yeah. So having your website, having your Google My Business listing connected to that, then content, populating content, and that content can come from whatever makes sense, where most of your people are going to want to ingest and digest and interact with that content. Although you should probably be everywhere. There is a bit of that, you get points for putting your name on the desk kind of a thing. So, have a Facebook profile, have an Instagram profile, have a LinkedIn profile, have a Twitter profile. Twitter gets a lot of flack, right?
Cesspool.
And there's a lot of that, but there's a couple things that you have to remember when you post content on Twitter. Number one, even if you've got some followers or people who are following that by tag and they can check you out, what you post there, even if it's just a little piece of a reinforcement that maybe they saw the video on LinkedIn, but they see that it's sitting there on Twitter as well, it's almost like a billboarding effect, right? And you're not paying for that. It's about the time and effort you put into it. And the other place is, regardless of how people feel about Twitter with strong varying opinions and things, you can stay right in the vanilla lane, and every media outlet and every person who works for a media outlet, whether it's a large network, a small local TV station, a local rag, a digital-only news source, they all are on Twitter. And Twitter has some really cool features where you can listen and you can attach software for listening to see what people are saying about a subject matter.
Wow.
People are saying about you, and then you can find that and use that from anything from understanding your audience, getting insights,
Reputation management,
sharing content, certainly knowing how others are looking at you when you talk about reputation, but also for leads. You can scrape leads from Twitter. It's cool.
I didn't even know this.
The content you can. So there's lots
Why
of
don't you
things.
tell me this sooner? In real time, we're doing it.
How long have we been trying to connect for getting used to these things done?
Hey, I was in this weekend, and I texted you about. Anyway, again, back to the exploratory thing. I'm making it too proprietary here, but yes, no, I love it. It's fun to needle. But and I don't mean to overspeak. Continue though.
But it's the content, and it's a way to distribute that content. So kind of number 3 is kind of a longer answer, but there's ways to do it. You can go old school and just and post content platform to platform to platform. There's also great automation software where you can make your job easier and post to multiple platforms at the same time. Maybe you want to throw out, and you have to make sure it's the right content for the right channel, right? You can get deeper and develop a strategy where you know what content's going to go where, what customer base or what potential clients or colleagues that might be out there, and where the best place is to reach them. But there's also some content that just works everywhere, right? So take advantage of automation. Get software that's going to post to Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and even your Google My Business profile all at the same time. That really is effective. And then you can concentrate the other efforts on the in-the-moment stuff that matters by channel.
What about the algorithm, though, Mike? Not that it's not a challenge; it's an inquiry. What about algorithms that, at least from what I see on LinkedIn in my research, I don't want to name names or make it. I almost said Clearview Social, but I guess that's a platform, and they're awesome. They just got acquired. Kudos, congrats, Adrian. He's awesome. But like I have read that some of those services, maybe it's not Clearview, but there are others that don't necessarily favor well with the algorithm. What's the inside there, the scoop there?
It's about balancing your content. So
Great
if you've got something that you know is going to work across channels, or even if you know it's going to work in one channel, you just, ideally if you've got the right software, you're just deselecting everything and just clicking on LinkedIn and posting right to there. That often gets some of those algo issues out of the way because their automation's not seeing that you're posting to multiple places. Okay. They might know where the sourcing is coming from. So you got to just figure it out. But at the end of the day, when I talked about the quality over the quantity over the quality over the quantity, the quality is really what matters. And so regardless of the algo, and they're changing all the time. Like that's part of what keeps us employed.
LinkedIn's
right?
is annoying.
And LinkedIn is annoying, but I will say this, and I've said it before, and I'll say it to the camera. I hate Facebook. Facebook is an awful mess on the back end. They have this relatively slick piece on the front side, and they've got their whole, I don't know if anyone, looked at that social network
Social dilemma, was it?
The social dilemma, that's what it was. The social dilemma. Some of that's actually real. It's like about what can we do to get you back to your device to interact and do that. But the back end, though, is what frustrates most of us as marketers because it's a buggy place. Things go wrong. Their customer service is non-existent. I could be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month on behalf of my clients, and I don't get much more support than if I'm just someone with an individual page. They're tough to reach. Sometimes you get lucky and get the right people, but then when you find the right person, usually you move on or move up or move out of the organization. So that inside person goes away, and it's challenging, but it's such an important piece of real estate to be. And so the algos change a lot, but when it comes down to it, if you follow the rule of putting out quality content, not worrying as much about how much you're blasting out there. I'm not saying post once a month, but if you feel like you're going to post 7 times a week and 4 times a day throughout that cycle, maybe you evaluate what you're putting out there first and get the quality and get a few posts out a week and then build from there. Because different content's going to resonate with different segments of your audience differently. And there's times that are better to post, and you could go Google that pretty much anywhere. You can.
Those change too.
The big players out there though see a lot of consistency. A lot of things haven't changed over the years in terms of when to post. Sure. Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the afternoon.
But even with
COVID changed it a little bit, but it's kind of snapped back a little bit too.
That's helpful.
Man. So that's COVID was a little bit of a okay, what do we do here? And Facebook was showing all of us a lot of love for some periods of time during COVID. Advertising costs went down. It was great, but then they've all jacked back up. And we're seeing pre-COVID numbers in terms of cost per interaction and all those things now as well. So it still comes down to the quality of your content, and the cadence needs to be there, but don't sacrifice quality to try to get a cadence jacked up and up and up and up, because you're not going to get rewarded for that. Algo changes.
Can you say that again for our audience? There's so much gold here.
The quality of your content, first goal, cadence, frequency, when you're posting and all those things, that's secondary. Don't try to outpace yourself before you have good stuff to throw into the pace.
So okay, stepping back then, right? So it's Google My Business, listing page, a website, even if it's very basic, and then obviously content, which we've
content across the channels. And Google My Business kind of transcends both this foundational presence effort and also a little bit of a social effort, because remember, Google had this. Can I say Google failed at something? This might get taken off the internet. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, hey, maybe this is only going to get like 2 views now. I wanted to get no, I'm kidding.
Google failed with Google Plus, right? So
I remember this.
They integrated a lot of functionality from Google Plus into the Google My Business ecosystem. So that's why you can post directly to Google My Business. And not a lot of people spend a lot of time going through all those posts on Google My Business. Google spends time knowing that you're doing it, and they give you more love. So it's about following their algo, as long as that works. There could be a time when we sit here and say, I don't do that on Google My Business anymore, but I don't see that coming, because Google's goal is to get us to use as many Google properties as possible.
There's so many.
And they're always evolving.
15 apps on my phone from Google alone.
For sure.
I just clean it up, but I mean, they're useful. Google Drive, it's an unbelievable resource.
Yes, for sure.
We use it all the time.
We use it for our company, and even we stopped using Slack and we're using Currents. Currents is Google's
I didn't even know
sort of answer to that. So
how recent has this been released?
Currents is a little
Currents,
yeah, I think a little over a year old.
Wow.
Yeah,
they're so out of date with this stuff.
And that's why we've got what we need to talk about, because when you get into our dashboard and get into all that stuff directly, and we get that stuff set up for you, you'll have access to all those things. You don't have to use all of them, but the nice part is to have them, under your belt, and that Google Workspace, which is getting your email address, your business email address through Google, which I think you already have. All those things are available for you to use right now. So
action now, right? It's like don't get into the paralysis by analysis. It is find that first step and take it. Mentioned earlier, right? These small steps when you want to get to world domination. So good pivot opportunity here. So thank you. First of all, I mean, that's just pure gold. I mean, in a day and age where digital, virtual, online is dominating more than ever. I mean, man, this is cool stuff. So entrepreneurship has been highlighted a couple times. I'm curious to hear from you, your definition of entrepreneurship and what led you to entrepreneurship. That's 2 questions. I shouldn't do that, but you got it.
Well, this is a weird one because I don't necessarily always consider myself to be an entrepreneur.
Okay, good. I like that.
I think an entrepreneur is just about taking risk and putting yourself out there with a new idea. So I think even if you're a part of a larger organization, you can be entrepreneurial within that organization as well.
An entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Sure.
And sometimes it works great. And if you're working for the wrong organization, it'll blow up on you quickly. And then probably if that's your mindset, it's a good idea to move on. And that even happened with me a couple of times in my career path. Sometimes everyone's like, stick your head out. It's okay. And then you find all your coworkers are sitting here like this. You're the one person who does it and your head gets chopped off, right? So not always the people who are telling you to go ahead and do that. It really
congruent to most things in life.
Yeah, they might have read it. They might have read it in a book, or maybe they saw it on an OZmosis podcast.
Well, coach and the student. Right. I already have ideas for what the title could be out of this. I can't help myself, but it's true though. It's like something that John Maxwell said on a podcast yesterday. Being additive to this point here, John Maxwell with Ed Milet, 2 guys that I look up to big time on this incredible podcast just released. Highly recommend it. I could put in the show notes. But he said, when you telling is good. Telling is good. Not even good. It's like average. It's okay. When you show and tell, you're 100x more powerful or more. Even. I don't know the multiple, but it's that practice what you preach. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, yeah, and it's about having an idea and wanting to see something come to fruition and wanting to be able to have some control over. Maybe it's not your own life. Maybe it's not necessarily even your own income. Because here's the big misnomer about entrepreneurship, you're not going to get loaded. You're not going to get rich. It's just like if you like football, right? Or if you like playing a particular sport, you can play it and like it, but the chances of you making it to the big leagues is really small. So if you're just in it to make money and you see people who are starting a company or starting a business, like, oh, this is great. I slung packages at FedEx overnight in the first year my company was in existence to make ends meet.
Wow.
And I will never regret it. It's something I had to do.
Gig work, side job, side hustle.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so
kudos, bro.
I don't live in a mansion. I don't I don't have a butler. Well, other than the one out in the hall, right? But I don't have a butler. I'm not looking for that. I'm also not looking to be popular. I'm not looking to be the guy that everyone looks to. Those don't come along very, very frequently either. You're not all going to become Gary Vee, right? So what it comes down to is if you have a desire to do something better that ends up helping someone at the end of the day, and that really is where it kind of comes down to. I know you've been probably waiting for me to say that, but
I'm chilling, man. I love it.
Help. And it doesn't matter what help is. Everyone's definition of help is different. If you can provide a solution to somebody that makes whatever it is that they're doing better, it will pay off. Even if you're not making the money from it now, you start getting to know more people, you build a reputation. And if your goal is to help and to provide something that someone couldn't have done on their own, or you provide a better way to do something or a more improved way for someone to do something they were already doing, it will pay off and it will take care of itself. The rest of it follows. And I think that kind of comes down to my view of entrepreneurship is that if you really want to help with something, whether that's help a small business grow, it could be, I want to help a pizza place sell more pizzas. It could also be, it could also just be, I want to make sure that this nonprofit who is just eking along finds that new track to just blow up.
That's awesome.
And all of that is great. And there's rewards that you can reap from all those interactions, from the smallest to the largest. And there's going to be bumps. That's the other part of, I guess, the awareness of entrepreneurship is that don't expect a lot of pats on the back. You don't get them.
People will look at you oddly, and I've seen this in my own life, and I've talked about it. It's not within a societal norm or a construct or a framework. It's hard to grasp, and I can't even imagine, Mike, on this topic. I just want to pull this out of this particular topic is first of all, entrepreneurs weren't really entrepreneurs in the 80s or whatever, going back decades. I can't imagine what they took on, but maybe they didn't take on as much because there wasn't this now commercialized, sexy entrepreneurship. Oh, we want to make a lot of money. We want to do this.
The word startup, like, okay.
It's classic.
Everything's a startup. I opened what would have just been a brick and mortar store 30 years ago, and I just was a shop owner.
Right.
Now I have a startup.
Now it's a startup. It's all sexy stuff.
And I think I've encountered people who get a little too caught up in that sexiness of it and don't realize that they have a job and a mission and a purpose, and it ends up not working out.
9 out of 10 in the first year, brother.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's the grit and the perseverance and the resilience, and that's why I get excited about these conversations, because you take what's going on in personal life and blend it with professional. When you're an entrepreneur, it's really both.
It's a lifestyle, and that's the other part. It is absolutely a lifestyle. There's no 9 to 5, 10 to 6, 11 to 7. It doesn't exist.
24/7, brother.
It's a part of your life, and you have to embrace that. So probably didn't take a vacation for the first 3.5 or 4 years I was doing this.
Cool.
Do now.
Excited.
But if I go on vacation, I'm going to work.
Yeah. It's because you love it too, though, and I want to bring that out, right, brother? It's like passion and love, and the old cliche, which once you start to find, whether it's in entrepreneurship or if it's just in life, you start to live a cliche. When you know your life purpose, I'm jumping around a little bit, when you find out what your life purpose is and you can start to actualize it and align it. I like to say PSP, passion, skills, and purpose. I remember saying that to you in our first conversation in Zoom back in January. Passion, skills, and purpose. You don't work. You're not work. It's not work. It can at times seem like last night I get a call from a client at 8:30 at night. I got to go down to the Yas Cave. All right. It's not great, but it's like you said, lifestyle. So I just wanted to bring that out, that if you first of all, you should find what you love, find what you're meant to do in this world, and then start to actualize it.
And there's pieces that are never going to be fantastic. And yeah, it's a lifestyle, but like I will be the first. I really, really dislike all the administrative stuff that goes on with running a company. And I love my employees, but there's processes that have to be followed and rules that have to be followed. Things like making sure that everything's set for payroll. If you have employees who are on any kind of variable compensation, maybe they're a salesperson and they get commissions and bonuses, being on top of that. You never want to keep a good salesperson's income at bay, right? You want to make sure that you are paying them when you're supposed to and reinforcing that. But invoicing clients, it's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's not fun.
It'd be nice just to collect all the money and just go to the fun stuff, but and not have to worry about it. But that's a piece of it. If you get to the point where you have more people in the mix and can start adding resources in, that's great. But we're 7 years in and we're doing that. We're not, and we still have in the weeds involvement. We've got some people we're working with who are helping us kind of get out of that piece so we can focus on, what our titles actually are within the organization. But when you're by yourself, or even when you're a small company, everyone still wears a bunch of hats.
Love that.
And that part's great, but there are going to be parts with some of those hats you don't like to wear. You have to do it because you got to keep the lights on and keep the ball rolling in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's good and there's the bad, right? And the good is that you are upskilling yourself with maybe not even fully being conscious of it, in that you're doing, accounting, you're doing ops, you're doing sales, whatever it may be. And that's the exciting piece. And I'm someone who's worked through a lot of different startups. And so I'm grateful looking back now, 9 years, 8 years, whatever it's been. In the moment, yeah, exactly. You're slogging it. This sucks, whatever. But when you get in retrospect and you introspect and reflect on, retrospect, introspect, and reflect.
Say that 12 times fast, John.
It's like red leather, yellow leather, red leather. Dude, this is fun, man. I'm enjoying this. No, but I just wanted to make sure there, because in the bad, obviously, is again, it's like, man, I gotta do invoicing myself. I'm right there with you. Even getting your invoice, maybe. It's exciting. This is cool. But then, yeah, you gotta go and you gotta document. You gotta have the proper. You gotta, and whatever, all the little nuts and bolts and how do I get paid. Go and set up a bank account, business banking, and doing the wire. And for you and I, we're doing checks, and I gotta still get to that of getting ACH and other things more easier connected. So I love that. And then the other thing, so I asked you, so what does entrepreneurship mean to you, and how did you become one? So maybe we pivot.
So
to that.
I've kind of always been one. I don't know that I should tell my initial entrepreneurial story on. Have I told you that on the side or not?
We'll sidebar sometime.
Yeah,
we do enough of that. Maybe
I sold content from a popular men's magazine, page by page on the bus in second grade. That's how I started making money on the side and liking.
I think you did liking
that. Yes.
Content.
But then I'm going to not name anyone else to keep all the, make sure that the guilty remain innocent in this, other than myself, for shining the light on it. But really, as far as I can remember, I had a paper route when I was in fifth grade. Dogs barked at me then too.
You got dogs in the studio.
We got a dog in the studio. Dogs outside the studio.
Yeah, go ahead. Literally.
And I've always been kind of doing something on the side. I was the person who got my driver's license as soon as I could and bought a car because I started working the real job track when I was 15, never stopped working. And then actually one of my business partners, his name is John Cummins, we were college roommates and always wanted to do something together. And it took until 7 years ago to finally do it. But I had a side gig. I left the corporate world. I was in pharmaceuticals for a while. That was probably one of the worst corporate jobs I've ever had. It's not, at least from my experience, it was not an ethical place to play. And it challenged me on that every day. And I did not like it. So
I like the intentionality of that statement, by the way, without generalizing. Just want to call that out, acknowledge it. Love it.
Yeah, it was the ethical questions. That was the challenge. It wasn't the relationship side. I've always had no problem with relationship with customers and relating to people. It was just some of the things we were asked to do. So I just happened to know some people in the music biz and said, okay, I've never done this before. Let's try this. And I dipped my toe into it. And then I threw myself in the pool. And I found myself working on a contract with a major record label that happened to have a division in Toronto. So I was going up there a lot. And then that division went out of business, and so did I along with it. And with a child, I think at the time, who was just about a year old, I had to lose lights. And
we kind of like this on the fly.
Yeah, I don't know. We can still see ourselves, I think. But part of the story, really, I had to rejoin corporate America. Did that. I think I was in it for 6 years, and I wanted to be in on a 1-year goal. And then one thing led to another, and I started Insept with my college roommate. And that's not supposed to happen, right? You're not supposed to You're not supposed to start a business with a friend.
That was symbolic.
It was.
It was the darkness happened where you weren't happy with your career or whatever it was, and you wanted to make a change, and then the light came on when Insept.
The light came on, and here we are.
Let's go.
And so,
sorry.
Depending on the day, one of my other partners will probably loves me or hates me for bringing him in. He was the account director for the ad agency my previous employer used, and brought him into this, and now we've got some great partnerships, and he works alongside us and with another agency. Actually, we're in a building that is operated by 15, a local branding and advertising company as well.
Shout out to Zach Schneider.
Yeah, and this is their studio that we get to use because we're tenants here as well, and it's all here we are, and it's worked out. And it's another 7 years, who knows where we're going to be, But
so
we take it a day at a time, and I think we've learned along the way, and we've had some fantastic clients. We've had some clients that we've learned from and moved on from. And this is not like an ego thing. Like I've let more clients go than we've been let go. It hasn't happened a lot. We don't have a lot of attrition in our little world, but there's some clients where you're going to learn this. You just can't make everyone happy, and it's okay. And regardless of what you put into it, you're not going to provide them what it is that they think they're looking for, and then that could be a natural end to a relationship, and then it opens the door oftentimes for something else. And
opportunity costs time.
And you learn a lot from the stuff that doesn't work out. Probably more than you do from the things that do work out.
Well, like Dan Gigani, our buddy, we're doing a couple shout outs. Like he says, it's not win or lose, it's win or learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it's about. So life's always we're lifelong learners, we're growth mindset, we're givers, we're community. And that's cool. It's cool insight. And that's something that then entrepreneurs and anyone listening to this in a business where they have the decision-making power to, cut up relationships with clients that are causing dissonance, that are eating up a lot of your time. I mean, it's not a fun or easy thing to do, but at the end of the day, you got to look out for the interests of the company, for yourself. Mm-hmm. So kudos there. That's cool.
There's someone that I follow a lot, and I think I've introduced you to him, Jason Swank, who, really goes on, double your prices and watch half your clients go away. And it's like clockwork. It'll happen over and over again. And is that a bad thing or not? Because then you're still making the revenue you need to, but you have more time, more attention, and more focus on those who find value in what you're providing. Because that price then becomes, it's always relevant, by the way. Don't ever let you say, get to the point where price always matters. There's budgets, there's limits in terms of what someone is willing to or can pay for whatever it is that you're providing, right? Mm-hmm. But if you provide enough value, there's a lot more elasticity there than you might think. And it's not that I'm saying that Insept goes out and charges clients tons of money. I've joked with my partner, let's try that. It hasn't happened. We haven't been able to swank anyone.
Swank anyone. Sway, swank. You should maybe think about that. Sway with swank.
I don't know swank. I don't think he'd like that.
No?
I don't know. We'll see.
Sway with swank?
You just tag him on this.
We'll see what he thinks, what he says. Well, honestly, though, what would be wrong with that? Be swayed with swank in terms of his thought leadership.
Yeah.
Maybe that's our title.
And that's kind of like with engaging you. That's a dude that when we talk about price, I haven't been able to budget in getting someone like him into my environment. But when we get there, it's a guy I want to call on to take a look at our world and use his brain and his experience, because man, there is so much to learn from so many people who have both been through a lot, have been through things that you haven't, and can bring a unique perspective. And it kind of gets back to that learning thing. None of us are special at the end of the day, and we can learn from everything. We are not opening someone up on an operating table and fixing them and sending them back to their family healthy and alive. We don't do that.
Great perspective.
We don't do that. So we have to center ourselves in looking at it that way as well, that if we can provide value and we can do something right and get the needle moved with whatever direction is that our client's goal is, we're doing a good job. But when there's an emergency, remember that we don't have to open somebody up on an operating table and fix them, or they will no longer be alive.
So many gold nuggets.
This is not the emergency room here, right? So it's and a lot of us take what we do way too seriously.
Have more fun, laugh more. Yeah. Take more breaks, micro recoveries. 45 minutes. Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about it, even in a meeting. A meeting for 60 minutes there, Mike. And there's a horizon, say you're in a building, or if it's just some blank space, like something like this maybe, take a gaze. Take
Absolutely.
a gaze.
You got a few more minutes. Go out. I know you'd be going out for a run or playing some golf. I'm hitting Underworld Gym, and I'm putting up some plates downstairs. My basement is Underworld Gym.
I like that.
It's my gym.
I like that. Yeah. I want to jump back really quick. You said something that struck me. You mentioned how you first of all, who you'd want to be on your team, that future team, right? As everything evolves, grows, opportunities open. It's that patience piece you put in there foundationally. I love that. But just letting things happen in a way sometimes or all the time. You mentioned, though, that you love to hire in Swank because of his brain, because of his experience. That makes me think of mentors. I look at you as a mentor even now, a couple months in, a friend, a mentor, a client, whatever. But there's a sincere and serious importance on mentors. Who would you say is a mentor? You don't have to name specifics unless you want to, but who's inspired you, who's mentored you, who's gotten you to this point in your life?
I know this is going to sound cliched, but probably it starts with two people. It's family. My mentorship roots absolutely are founded within my family. My grandfather was like the quintessential salesman. He could sell anything, and trying to think of the things that he did. He sold I think dog food for Purina. He sold chickens for some Purdue competitor that no longer exists many years ago. I think he even sold potato chips at a point in time in his life as well.
Get me hungry, man.
But he and my grandmother retired early to Daytona Beach, Florida, when condos were going up, and he sold real estate. They ended up, he just always had a hustle. He was always hustling, and he was great at that. And then, my
Can I ask you real quick?
Sure.
What do you think? And I'm sorry, I know you're going somewhere else, but what do you think? I'm fascinated by that. Where do you think he found his zest for having those hustles and being in the sales world, which can beat you up big time? We've talked about this at length with others and whatever, but what do you think his motivation, his zest, his incentive was to do what he did?
Taking care of his family. He wasn't a guy out there like volunteering in the community and doing lots of things, but he was also a devout Catholic and was very connected to his church as well.
So philanthropy in a form.
I think in that sense that existed. And then my uncle, his son, was he just passed away way too early in life last July, but he retired. He sold his company that he had started on his own, and and it took him until he was in his 40s to get that gig going, and he made it fly, and he did a great job and sold it right at the top of its value, and did everything just the way that everyone wants it to work out, right? And so, even when I had started this, my first client was my uncle. I oversaw the development of his new website for his company.
How cool!
And so, that was great. And he gave me a shot, and I'll always be thankful and remember that. But then I think about my own parents, who are very different, different path. My mother was a teacher. She had been a social worker prior to. My father was a civil service worker in like upper management for the state of New York. Retired right when he could at 55 and got out and everything. But what I look at for that point is that piece of steadiness. My dad hated his job, hated it for years, but he took care of us. Mm-hmm. He took care of my, I have a brother. He helped us with college, and they did everything that he was motivated to do, and that was his motivation. But his secondary motivation, this next phase in life, he used to be stressed out and everything. Now he's like the guy who's zen. Like he could sit there and he's the guy who, when he speaks, you listen because he doesn't speak a lot, but what comes out of his mouth is very valuable.
Carries weight.
And so it's kind of that balance. It's like trying to have the hustle and understanding that steadiness that my parents provided and looking at where they sit in their life now, happy in retirement, enjoying the things that they do. I think that's kind of, it's like my end goal is to kind of hit that retirement phase while still having a hustle, if that makes sense. My hustle might not be Insept, and probably one of my partners will flip for me saying this, is like, yeah, Insept might last forever. I'm not going to probably last connected to Insept, at least dealing with it day in and day out. But man, if I could run a nonprofit, if I could be a consultant to those, if I could be the guy who knows everyone in town with money, to then channel their money in the right direction to those folks, that would be retirement for me. And I'd also be able to balance that and kind of what I've learned from my parents.
Well, it's not retirement though, Mike.
Yeah, no, it's
not, man. You're repurposing, you're refocusing, and again, I just want to be additive because we have another sidebar because that's something that I'm working on developing. Not to make it about me, but I was just talking about this with my friend Nick Kaczynski from Odoo yesterday at lunch. I think I mentioned that to you earlier at lunch together, and my life goal would be to do what you're saying. So we got to have a sidebar on that, and I commend you for that because again, it goes back to the fabric of this conversation. And it's servant leadership, it's service, it's community, it's uplift, it's connection, it's doing the right thing, it's giving. And that gets me excited. And I wanted to then step back again, another layer, is you said hustle and steady. I find myself fighting that war.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for one, it's a distracted world. You got 10 screens, you got 10 platforms to be on. You got, especially if you're doing anything worth a damn. I swear for the first time, maybe that doesn't count though.
I almost said a couple of times, but
I caught you with like a f in there or two. But if you're doing anything worth a damn, you start to then attract people and interest and opportunity. So my curiosity is someone who's been doing this for 7 years, formally with Insept. Maybe this is where we get adjourned. This will be the first, I'm sure, of many over time. This has been incredible, man. It really has been. And thank you for your time. But how do we find steadiness within the hustle?
It's like anything. I tie back to digital marketing, right? You've got to try some things, and some things aren't going to work, and you find the right fit. And sometimes when you're on the right path and you find the right fit, the algo changes, and you have to adjust to it. So, I mean, that's really what it comes down to, is that I don't think there's a construct of I found my steady or I mastered my hustle. They both have to evolve, and finding that balance is what it is. And I'm not even close to getting to that steady.
You may never be.
And I might not. Maybe I'm just not.
I don't think
maybe I'm not wired right for it. I don't know that yet. I would like to be. I would like to think that, like, I know I can't go play golf with you.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
We're gonna be playing
I've broken golf clubs in my past life. I retired from the game, John.
Hold on.
I retired from the game.
Okay, so where we just were, hold on, stay there. But let's use some osmosis or osmosis. You know, us being together, there's actual osmosis, right? Scientifically, but use it in a colloquial sense of there's ideas and particles and these thoughts coming together, excitement, energy. The osmosis is me, and the power of it is someone like yourself, Insept, my other clients, my friends, my network, the support. It's not about Johnny osmosis as much as it is about the power of osmosis. So taking it back to the golf course, I've had too many times where I myself have been on the recipient end of being around someone who has shown me something, whether they knew it or not, just by them being themselves. Chuck Collar's a great example, who's in here, a week or two ago. And I got you too. But I think there'd be some interesting things could happen.
I think if anyone could get me back on the golf course, John, it might be you. But I hit a hole in one.
What?
On a
I
long
never even had a hole in
par
one.
three, so it wasn't real. I mean, I hit it, but
it wasn't real.
It
still did it.
It was, where's the ball? Holy crap, it's in the cup. That was my hole in one.
But you still did it.
My name was in the paper back when,
They still do that. They still do that.
Oh.
Maybe it's more so now in the publication of the club.
Could be.
Because they still do it. And
but
did you have to buy beers for everyone or drinks?
I was only with my brother, so, that was easy. But
you got to go in the clubhouse and say, I got a hole in one. And then you got to buy everyone sodas.
That same day,
to a tree at one.
that same round, I slid down a hill and got myself covered in mud too. So it's just one of those. But
I could see something weird there.
I used to not like if you asked my business partner John about how Mike behaved when he didn't like how he was playing golf. Like I wasn't happy with that version of me when I would do that either, right? So so maybe when we get back to the steady piece, right?
Sure.
It's finding what that is. So there's little things in life. Like I know that you've had transformation in your life where you've embraced some new aspects to your lifestyle. I've been challenged with that my most of my adult life with, up and down on the scale and all that sort of thing. One thing I can do is lift and do that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not right if I don't work out 5 or 6 days a week. I have to. That's a part of my steady. So it doesn't have to be something huge, right? Mm-hmm. Forcing my wife to go out and take a walk on a day like today where it's going to be sunny out. I don't care if it's a little cool. It's a lot nicer than it was in February, right? Things like that. And then getting away, spending some time away, even if it does involve work. Travel's a big goal, things like that. If I can start saying, I've done this more this year than I did last, I'm heading closer to my steady. But then my steady could repurpose because something in life changes.
It's unpredictable.
Yeah, for sure.
Man, Gold Nugget City. Thank you. That was a great point to finish up on. Let's talk now then as we adjourn and finish up. How do we find you? You, the company, anything else? How do we get in touch? I'll put it in the show notes too for sure.
Well, he'll be tagging so you can load us up. But
I'll tag like 30
website.
things.
Our website is probably the best place to get a good overview about what we do.
Can we find it in your Google My Business too?
We probably could look
Just
up
by-
Insept Buffalo and find our Google My Business listing and our 5-star review rating.
Take a check.
You know.
Ooh, little mic drop.
But our website's getincept.com. And,
GETINCEPT.com in the show notes.
or the same amazingly handle of GetIncept at any of your
Uniformity.
favorite
Let's
social channels.
go.
Yes.
I need to do that. I have a couple misalignments there. So much to do, brother.
We're gonna get through it, man.
Yeah.
We're gonna get it done.
I love it. I love how baseline you are. It's very good. It's useful. But this has been great. So in summary, it's a weird transition. It's useful. In summary, we've talked about a lot of great stuff here, and I'm so grateful. Things like some do's and don'ts, maybe in the digital world, your online footprint, digital footprint. We talked entrepreneurship. We talked community. There's so much here to unpack. So the show notes will reflect that. I'm certainly juiced. Shout out to Steve Colton for making me this shirt. I'm juiced by this conversation. Again, you can find Insept in those areas there, of course, uniformly. And again, I've expressed gratitude again. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, 599 Delaware, 15, whoever else, the Schneider Group there for this. But of course, gratitude out to our mutual friend Neil Carroll of vidwheel and vidwheel Creator Network. Everything as always, I always finish with gratitude, as we should, in all realms of life, to vidwheel for the support and the faith in me. So exciting things. Looking forward to releasing this. And MD, here's to a bright future of continued friendship, entrepreneurship, and servant leadership.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
Thanks for being here, my friend.